Hey now, everybody. Welcome back to the Score and More podcast, but not really. This is a bonus episode of the Score and More podcast, so I'm not officially counting this as episode 49, but it's an important one nonetheless. I'm Pat Stoetzer from the Community Media Center, and joining me today, not Michael Duffy, but instead a fine replacement. It's Brandon Burkhardt, CMSportsNet, colleague of mine. If you've seen us broadcast high school sporting events in the last year or so, and you've seen me there almost every other time, you've seen Brandon there as well. Brandon's the man behind the camera, the man behind all the footage you've been seeing on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, my Instagram account, my Twitter account, his Twitter account, his Instagram page. Are they called pages, Brandon, on Instagram?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm making sure I'm saying this properly. I'm not. You're the young.
That's what I'm here for.
You're the young generation. I'm the older generation. But thanks for joining me, Brandon. Brandon and I thought about this the other day. Hey, I know the Score and More podcast is high school sports related to Carroll County, and it's we appreciate everyone that listens to that. But he and I, of course, talk sports when we're not talking about Carroll County high school sports. We're talking about branching out into the college and the pros, and pretty big weekend coming up this weekend in terms of the NFL. If you're a football fan. It's AFC It's Championship Sunday, I should say, with the NFC Championship game and the AFC Championship game. Before we get into that, though, Brandon, just real quick, I know you came to us from McDaniel College, but you've been a sports fan your whole life. If you don't see, I should have mentioned this too. When you see us out, you'll notice Brandon because he's either wearing something with the Yankees on it or something with the Cowboys on it. So the last few months haven't ended. His seasons haven't ended the way that maybe he wanted to. But before we get into all that. How'd you come to us? How'd you come to the Media Center, Brandon? And just give us a real quick recap of your sports life.
Well, first off, Pat, thank you. Like being in this, being a part of the podcast. Never something I haven't done before, so hopefully this is a new adventure for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of where I came from, grew up in Salisbury, across the bridge over in the Bury, and grew up
Eastern Shore.
Oh yes, sir. Grew up watching sports. Playing sports, big part of my life.
Okay.
Video games, all of that.
Right.
Football, baseball. I actually, when I was younger, baseball was kind of my favorite sport.
Mm-hmm.
Played it, grew up watching it. I mean, just all parts of my life were kind of around sports.
Yeah.
And then I got to high school and started seeing the ability to go play at the next level, and that was with football, not baseball.
Right.
So. Transition to that.
Made the switch, yeah.
Made the switch. Probably the reason why my body is the way it is right now, aching. Because football is not kind on you.
No,
but,
it's not.
Nonetheless, now, both sports, like I told you a couple days ago, it's really whatever season we're in, that's what I'm more into at the time.
Sure.
Especially after watching the Cowboys lose. Starting to transition to baseball.
Yep. Pitchers and catchers. Yeah, pitchers and catchers report in a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. So get that show on the road. But,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest part being able to work here at the CMC is I've kind of stepped into a role that I always wanted to be a part of, watching it as a kid. You're on the sidelines, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. You see guys with a camera on the sidelines, notes in hand, taking notes. Like, oh. And again, I was an offensive lineman, so we didn't get any love. And so being able to do what I do here, being able to give the love back, put the spotlight on them. It's awesome feeling.
Is that why you linger on those linemen on the field when we're trying to get you to get those shots of the quarterback?
Trying to get the emotion, capture that emotion.
You want to see those linemen create that A gap for the running backs to run through, right? You can appreciate those nice plays when we've seen A.J. Rodriguez or Kyrese Walker find those holes on the football field.
Those holes come from somewhere.
That's true. Yes, they do. So yeah, Brandon, the Cowboys fan. So his football fandom anyway sort of came to an end last week, but it doesn't mean he's not going to watch these games on Sunday. Yeah,
I don't know. I'll have it in the background, like as background noise.
Really, you won't be as into it because the Cowboys aren't playing?
It's hard to see. One, the Eagles.
Okay.
Right, and two, the Niners team just knocked us out for the second year in a row.
So this is still fresh. The wound is still fresh.
If you were to ask me who I'd rather see win, I wouldn't be able to give you a clean answer because that's just not the right answer right now.
Well, that's what we're going to get to, so you better think of one soon.
I have.
It's all up in your head. That's right.
That's
right. The 49ers travel to San Francisco travels to Philadelphia for the first game on Sunday, 3 o'clock up there at Lincoln Financial Field. The Eagles.
Nasty up there.
What's that?
Nasty up there.
It's true. Eagles, number one seed, had the bye and took care of business last week against the Giants to advance. So they get a chance to host the game in Philly. the 49ers, I mean, for NFL fans, they've seen the third-string quarterback come on about a month and a half ago and do just enough to get win after win. I think this is 8 in a row now that he's won. Brock Purdy is the man, Mr. Irrelevant.
He accepted in week 15, week 14 or 15.
Right. Okay, so that's, 7 or 8 wins in a row then for the Niners with Purdy, who was the last pick in the draft, the 2022 draft. Just maybe putting some flames to the idea of you can get anybody to come in there and kind of fill the role and play quarterback. Not anybody, I know, but I'm just using that as an example.
It's a great team you walked into, though. A great situation.
It is.
Everything over there.
It is. That's true. I mean, I was going to say, Brandon, you have a little bit of knowledge about someone coming in to replace the starter and doing well. Cowboys fans know Cooper Rush filled in for Dak Prescott when Dak got hurt in the early part of the season and did a pretty good job.
Well, I thought you were referring to Dak's rookie year.
Oh,
when he stepped in for Romo.
That is true too. Yeah, but I was thinking about this year, and what did they do? A 4-1 with Cooper.
4-1. Yeah. But you watched those games. You knew just from watching that what Rush was giving you was not going to be what Dak was giving you.
Fair.
Now there's more upside with that, but then we also saw the negative with that, and that's Dak leading the league in INTs, 15 on the year. So it goes both ways. But again, you watch the Cowboys. That's kind of what Romo was back in his heyday, right? He was a gunslinger, took a lot of chances, but how many times did we see in the fourth quarter? Cost the interception and ended up costing the game. So
yeah, I mean, Brett Favre's in the Hall of Fame. He did that his whole career as well. He's got a couple killers in the playoffs that cost his team a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. I know one against the Saints and one against the Giants. One against the Giants when he was still at Green Bay. The Cowboys came up short last week in the divisional round. The Niners get to play the Eagles. We'll stick on that game for a second. I mean, I know you're going to swallow your pride here and talk about the Eagles and how good they are this year. You split with them during the regular season, but by virtue of their record and what they did this year, they were the number 1 seed. They earned the home game. What does it take for Philadelphia to advance to the Super Bowl?
Well, we've heard it talked about all the times on social media, on TV by quote unquote analysts. They run the ball and they run the ball well. And I think with any team, you're able to stay ahead of the chains on first, second down, right? That may mean picking up 4 or 5 yards on first down. Right. Setting yourself up for 3rd and short, 3rd and 2. That's what they're good at. They're able to stay ahead of the chains. They got a really good run game. They got Lane Johnson back now at right tackle. Yep. Hall of Famer at center. So they do a lot of things right. And I think the biggest thing, maybe not the biggest thing, but one of the things I think their offense, the reason why their offense took the next step was the addition of A.J. Brown.
Oh, of course.
Pairing him with Devontae Smith. I mean, those are 2 guys who can get open.
Oh, yeah.
And it's causes you a lot of opportunities there on offense, score points.
And Hurts, he doesn't have the best arm in the league, but he's got a good arm, and he can beat you with his legs, too, if he needs to pick up, like you just mentioned, pick up those first downs. Yeah. They use him well in that offense, and they may have the best line in the whole league, and that certainly goes a long way.
Probably one of the best lines we've seen since, the Cowboys in 2014 when they drafted Martin.
Right.
I mean, all across that line.
But just across, exactly. Yeah, across the line. A lot of Pro Bowlers. You mentioned Lane Johnson. He's like Football Focus ranks him number 1 of all time in all these other categories. Jason Kelsey is one of the best ever at center. You go on Twitter and if you or Google or whatever and just search their names, you can find a lot of funny videos of just embarrassing defenders with one arm, pancaking guys. And
did you see the holiday album they put together?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did hear about it.
It was fun seeing the commercials, but again, Philly Cowboy fan, I don't want to see Eagles in the booth singing like that's.
Well, so the Cowboy fan you is rooting for San Francisco. Do you think the Niners have a chance to win the game Sunday?
I wouldn't even say I'm rooting for San Francisco. Again, they've, like I said, knocked us out twice in a year.
But they're not your division rivals.
No, but
they're your rivals.
There's history there between the 2 teams. So
they can't tie. Somebody has to win.
Yeah. Hey, make something up in the NFL.
If you're asking me, I think this is where Brock Purdy's run sort of comes to an end. I think the Eagles are maybe a little more balanced overall. The San Francisco is dirty. Like, their defense is nasty. It. And their offense is talented. Purdy's done, like we talked about this earlier in the week, Purdy's done just enough. His numbers aren't going to light it up on the stats. I mean, he had to go toe-to-toe with, I think, Jared Stidham a few weeks ago just to get a win against the Raiders. And Stidham was in because Derek Carr, they said basically see you later to Derek Carr before the season ended. It's been fun to watch. The Niners are. I kind of always have admired the Niners for how they've done things. Their whole program, their whole franchise. I'm older than you, so I know the Joe Montana years, the Jerry Rice years, and even the Steve Young years of things of that nature. They haven't won one in a long time, but they've been to a couple Super Bowls in the last decade. I think they got a chance, of course, but that's a long, coming all the way across the country in a hostile environment in Philly. The way Philly took the Giants apart after the Giants did a pretty good job against, well, I'll admit, is a kind of a fake Minnesota team.
Yeah, I never believed in New York anyway, so.
I didn't believe in them to maybe to beat them, but not to lose 38-7. Again, in a divisional sort of matchup, but that's fair. That's fair. I think Philly was by far the better team in that matchup. They did split during the season, didn't they?
No.
Oh, they beat them. Maybe one game was close and one was a blowout.
They swept them. The last game, the Week 18 game, was close.
Okay.
Philly jumped ahead, I think 20-0 at one point, and New York fought back.
Like 22-16 or 22.
It was a one-score game at the end. Yeah.
Okay, the first time they beat them, I think, by double digits.
Yeah, when they've traditionally owned New York, too.
Yeah.
You look back at it, I think I went back and looked at it one time since like 2012 or something. I mean, it's been pretty one-sided between Philly and New York.
I'm going to take Philly in this one. I mean, I don't gamble on sports, but I know the spread is fairly close. It's Eagles minus 2.5. So again, I don't usually gamble on things, even if I was just making a gentleman's wager. I think Philly covers it. Maybe they win by a score. I don't think weather's going to be an issue. I think it's supposed to be okay up there.
It's probably going to be cold.
Cold, but not. I don't think it's supposed to be whipping winds or driving rain or snow. Not that the Niners can't adjust to the weather. I'm sure they can. I think it might be I think it's going to be a really close game down the stretch. I think the Eagles will do, like you mentioned, all those weapons they have, and just taking nothing away from Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy, and that defense is just so good. They've showed that all year long. Fred Warner being able to cover receivers, and go away from the ball and do that and do a pretty good job. I'm always a tip of the cap to that.
He's been doing that for a while too.
He has.
I'm pretty sure he was the same class as Van Der Esch.
Okay.
Second round pick.
Yeah.
Ever since then.
Yeah.
You've kind of saw it. First year, LV was up top. Fred Warner was a little below him, and then Fred Warner has been ascending ever since.
Well, they're a couple of studs. They're both. Van
Der Esch is all right. I wouldn't call him a stud.
No,
he's a solid player.
I've always liked him when I watched the Cowboys.
He was good this year. He was a lot better, I think, than people anticipated.
And he had some injuries too.
He missed
earlier
a
in his
stretch of
career
4 or 5 games, a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm talking about this year, he missed like 4 or 5 games with a neck, and they missed him, and they couldn't stop the run. And when he came back, they got much better in that area. But
so in that way, he is.
Warner is much better, I think, as a defender in coverage.
Okay.
And he's much more athletic as
Warner,
well.
Greenlaw, Jimmy Ward in the defensive backfield.
They have all pros at every level.
Bosa, maybe the Depoy, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, am I talking myself out of this?
Safety, who's the safety they have?
Jimmy Ward?
No, the other one, Talafunga.
Oh yeah,
I never heard of him before. Apparently, he's an All-Pro. He was all over the place against Dallas.
He looked like Troy Polamalu, running, timing the snaps and running in.
Yeah,
and I'm not just saying that because of his hair. I mean, he was flying on the
play
ball.
style. Yeah, play style. It was very similar.
Yeah.
And again, I had never heard of him. I consider myself to be pretty in the loop with the NFL, and I had never heard of him before.
Am I talking myself out of this? Is San Francisco going to win this game Sunday?
I think you're starting to solidify my pick. Like I said, especially after watching him a week ago, and you made a comment about Purdy not having to do too much. I think when he plays a certain brand of football that he does, right, not turning the ball over, something that we said Dak does, ends up costing his team. I think the Niners as a whole, as a team, I think is a better team than Philly, what they have just on paper. But if Purdy takes care of the ball, which will be tough against that defense in Philly on the road, he's going to give them a chance. And I'm going to take San Francisco in this one.
Okay.
I think a lot of it we've seen in the past. Philly has a hard time running or stopping the run. We've seen it in past weeks. They've gotten better. They shorted up. Saquon, I don't think did much last week against Philly, but a situation like that, they're probably not running all that much.
Sure. Down so early as they were.
But just the weapons that Purdy has at his disposal. 2 backs, McCaffrey and Mitchell. And then, what's his face? Kittle is a menace.
What's his face?
He's a menace. Yeah, I learned about him last week.
He's a menace.
He's always open. And he's also as physical as he is in the run game, blocking.
Yes.
I think that's crazy. We don't see that from tight ends very much.
He takes more pride in that sometimes in making catches.
Yeah.
And they'll put Deebo Samuel in the backfield and a lot of jet sweeps and just designed runs. Mm-hmm. We saw him kind of break out last year in a lot of those plays from the backfield.
Just physical.
They're physical.
You don't see backs in the backfield that are as big as he is.
Not like Deebo Samuel. I'm going to stick with Philadelphia for the podcast purposes. When we come in to work Monday and the Niners have won, I'll say probably, hey, I had that one, but
You got a score?
Oh, man. I wasn't going to try to predict scores just because it's going to come down to the last possession in my mind, and the Eagles will be ahead, maybe 24-20, and they'll need to get a couple first downs to milk out the clock, and they'll get it done. That's my prediction. I'll say Philadelphia 24, San Francisco 20.
See, I was going to use that score too, but then you just went and used it. So
you asked me first, so
I mean,
now you got to think of something else.
Definitely, I'm taking San Francisco.
Okay.
I think it might be just a situation where it's first and 20, and first one to score 20 is going to be the.
I mean, you might be right.
You might be right. But both defenses are tough to score on. I saw a stat the other day. Philly was chasing the Bears from a while back in terms of sacks, total sacks on the year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like that, and there was like, I believe the last 6 or 7 weeks, they've had at least 5 or 6 sacks.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, when they bring guys like Robert Quinn off the bench to come in and like just get a pass rush.
Robert Quinn hasn't been all that great.
I'm just saying, to the caliber of a pass rusher.
Yeah, no.
Coming off the bench, that's the depth.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get that at the depth.
I think if you ask Eagles fans about Quinn, I don't know if they'd be that enamored with him just from what they've seen. When he get traded, like at the deadline.
Week 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah.
So
I'm okay with it.
It's a lot of money. I don't know if they're paying him, but it's a lot of money he's owned. So
yeah, the Bears got him off their books, and I'm a Bears fan, so I'm okay with it. He had a great year last year. They weren't going to bring.
He was great in Dallas too.
He was. They weren't going to bring him back, and they got some picks for him. But that's a podcast for another day.
And they traded it for Claypool, which is a terrible trade. But
that's your voice. That's your opinion.
I don't know if he's been very good. Was he good after they traded for him?
He got banged up. I wouldn't call him good. Give him another half a year. It was switching offenses in the middle of the year, switching teams.
You got that running back playing quarterback.
I don't think he was all that great at Pittsburgh, to be honest with you. He was good.
He had a good rookie year.
He was good.
He had a good rookie year.
He was good. He was a hothead though. He cost him that one by posing on while the clock was running. Late in the game. Chargers game, right? I think it was the Chargers. Anyway, so Pat's taking the Eagles. Brandon's taking the 49ers.
I'd say 27-20 San Francisco.
Okay. So it was comparable. And like you said, maybe the first one to go past 20 wins the game. Wouldn't surprise me. To me, it's a coin flip, and obviously the experts think the same with only 2.5 points. Let's get to the AFC Championship game, a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game, Cincinnati at Kansas City, 6:30 on Sunday night. The Fox has the first game, if anybody cares, 3 o'clock, and then CBS 6:30, so you can cozy up on your couch and watch Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow go at it in the rematch of last year's game, won by the Bengals.
It's crazy to say this, but is this a legacy game for Patrick Mahomes?
It's not crazy to say it
because his reputation as the best quarterback in the league. If Joe Burrow goes and beats him again,
which would be the 4th straight time,
and
the 2nd straight time in a championship game, you might be talking about a legacy game. I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes is on his way to the Hall of Fame no matter what happens in this game, I think, as long as he stays healthy. He's been in 5 straight AFC Championship games. That's nothing to sneeze at.
Came back from a high ankle sprain last week.
He did.
I've sprained my ankle playing basketball before, and I had to be helped off. And to imagine him going off the sideline, getting taped up, going right back out there, that's pretty impressive.
And from all the things I've been looking at online this week, the report says he's not wearing an air cast. He doesn't look like he's got a limp. Maybe it wasn't as severe as they first thought it was. I mean,
it looked pretty bad.
It did. And the way he reacted, it was pretty bad. But obviously they go off the sideline and get a little bit of help from the medical staff, quote unquote. Some Toradol might have been involved there, but once that wears off, the pain starts to set in. Adrenaline helps, of course. I think that's what athletes say. This one might be the better game in terms of more offense that we'll see in the first game. I'm not saying a better game, but more exciting game in terms of offense. That's all I'm trying to say. Kansas City did not really miss a beat after they lost Tyreek Hill during the offseason. They got the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't remember anybody really picking the Bengals to do this again this year. I think they thought maybe they were ahead of pace last year. Great season, got to the Super Bowl, came up a little bit short against the Rams. After the first 4 weeks of the season or so, they haven't lost. I mean, if they've lost 1 game since then,
they didn't start too hot. They started pretty slow. I mean, Dallas beat them at home, like week 2, I believe.
Ravens beat them. They lost to the Steelers in week 1. They haven't lost in I think they're up to double-digit win streak right now if you count the playoffs as well. Joe Burrow is trying to become that guy, right? He's trying to take over the mantle.
I think he already is that guy.
He might be.
In terms of being referred to as the best quarterback in the league, I think
you got to win one.
Winning Sunday would go a long way to changing that narrative or making that the narrative, I guess I should say.
No doubt. Going to back-to-back Super Bowls on the AFC. If he wins
Mahomes to both of them.
If he wins one, if he wins the Super Bowl, I think that puts him that puts him up, and it's only his third season.
I think if he beats Mahomes,
That
regardless
gets him
of what
the
he
number?
does in the Super Bowl,
Okay.
I think if it doesn't completely change it, I think you start to have that conversation. Hey, who's the best quarterback right now playing?
You calling a Super Bowl a different
And-
animal, just trying to
yeah.
get back to the Super
I mean,
Bowl.
the winning, that's a tough game to win, right? I mean,
Yeah.
a lot can
Absolutely.
be going on that has no control of
No,
the quarterback.
no
you
doubt.
know? So, just from a narrative standpoint, if he knocks off Patrick Mahomes twice,
On the
last
road.
year was on the road.
Yeah.
Too. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
his last 4 times they played, or last 3 times, he's beaten them all,
Yep.
all 3 times. So, if you're Mahomes, this is you can't lose 4 straight, to anybody. Nonetheless, Joe Burrow, who #1 overall pick, guy who's about to get paid coming up.
Right.
I mean, that's
You would think the law of averages would favor Kansas City, and they are a 1-point favorite now because I think the line's changed a little bit since Mahomes doesn't seem like he needs any sort of extra time to rest this ankle other than what he's gotten from a week off. You would think, look, Chiefs fans or Chiefs, anybody that follows Chiefs aren't going to lose to this guy a 4th time. It just can't happen. And if I'm a Chiefs fan, we're at home again. I don't know. I mean, the Bengals are loaded, and Burrow looks like he's having the time of his life out there. They whipped Buffalo up and down the field last week. It wasn't even close. That game was over by halftime. I know the score was close. It was over. I mean, Buffalo couldn't do anything on their turf in the snow. 2 things that Buffalo is known for, winning home games and being in the elements. The Bengals looked like they were far and away the better team. I think they were the better team. They probably should have won by more, if not for a couple the odd call on Jamar Chase, which maybe didn't complete the catch all the way to the ground, and I think another call that went against them. It didn't matter. I mean, they had 30 first downs in that game. Like, that's ridiculous, and they really impressed me. Watching what the Ravens did against them the week before was a close game that they sort of eked out, but it's a divisional game. I get that. After they had played in the week before that, of course, in the week 18, but the Bills were supposed to be, it was supposed to be Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes right in the playoffs. And Joe Burrow said, no, I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
I'm the guy.
No, it's the narrative can change real quickly in the NFL. I mean, I think all
true.
year people were trying to crown Josh Allen, right? And then when push came to shove here in the divisional round, he didn't show up. So it's real funny to contrast him between Dak. Similar profiles, similar play styles. One I think is a lot more respect in the media Allen is compared to Dak. But neither has had any playoff success if you count just wild card. I mean, all they've won is wild card games.
Right.
So again, the way you change that narrative quickly is to do what people say you can't do. And for Allen, he lost out on the opportunity last week. And the same with Dak. You go out, win another one next year. Take a next step. That's how you change the narrative. But the narrative between Mahomes and Burrow is an exciting one because Sunday we'll be able to see, where both of these quarterbacks go from here.
Yeah, and is Mahomes hobbled? Will he be affected by the ankle? Can Burrow beat Mahomes for a second straight year in the AFC Championship game? Can either team establish a run? Because I know Joe Mixon until that game, until last week, he hadn't done much in the last month or so. Their running game's been a little bit low.
He had that one great game.
He did, where he had 5 touchdowns. And after
yeah.
that, he went really downhill. But he came back last week, and they gashed the Bills
Yeah.
for a lot of big chunk plays on the ground. Burrow can use his legs. We know Mahomes can use his legs. I like Cincinnati's receivers better than Kansas City's. Kansas City has Travis Kelce. The Bengals don't have that. Nothing against Hayden Hurst and their other tight ends, but so they're balancing each other out. The Bengals defense is probably playing a little bit better than Kansas City's right now. I think Kansas City did a pretty good job against Jacksonville last week and holding down the kind of a up and coming team. I think it's going to be a good game. Something tells me the Bengals are going to win again. I don't know why. I just think that I like the role they're on right now. Burrow's just sort of playing loose. You saw all those videos of him warming up. It was kind of cool in the snow, and he didn't even throw him.
Oh, yeah, that one where he, spun around when he threw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right at that moment, I knew they were winning by 20.
See? Yeah, you knew
That's
it.
Joe Cool right there.
It was
That's
Joe Cool. So I'll take Cincinnati to score. I don't think they'll be they won't light it up as much maybe as I'm saying when I first started talking about the game. I'll say 27-24 Cincinnati. Kind of going on the same thing you did a minute ago, but I'll take the Bengals on this one. You think the law of averages goes Kansas City's way?
It's funny because I feel like for the first time in a while, Kansas City is not going into a game where they're viewed as the team, the
100%.
juggernaut.
100%.
So it'll be interesting to see how a team like that responds to that narrative, I guess, that, be able to rally behind each other. Hey, we're the underdog here. We're not supposed to win. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm going to take them at home. I tell you, when Mahomes went down last week, who's the backup quarterback they brought in?
Chad Henne.
Chad Henne. Was it Chad Henne?
Uh-huh. Yep.
He came in, so with the ball was at
the 2-yard
line, goes 98 yards.
Yep.
And at that point, I'm like, yeah, this team is just loaded. It's a good team.
That's an underrated moment of that last weekend, is they had Jacksonville was sort of poised to take the lead.
Momentum.
Yeah. 98-yard drive, touchdown for the backup. Now, Chad Henne's been in the league a long time. He's a veteran. He knows how to do it. But it's still, you put him at the 2, not too many guys are going to just take it. If he gets out of his own end zone, that's a win if you're Kansas City.
Trying to flip the field.
Right. They score a
They
touchdown.
went down and scored 6.
Right.
So they had, Pacheco with a long run there. He's fast.
He is.
He's very fast. And I think you get him going, you get that run game going in general.
McKinnon's fast, makes plays.
Helped my fantasy team out a little bit at the end of the year, too, because he kind of came on.
I was going to mention Christian McCaffrey, how he gets kind of stronger as the game goes on, and that might be a factor in that game against the Eagles with San Francisco. Pacheco, same way. If they continue to kind of pound on Cincinnati's front line, Pacheco will break one of those. And then you have McKinnon back there, too, where they use him as a receiver, but he does a lot of his dirty work in the backfield. Mm-hmm. I don't think you'll see Mahomes run around as much just because of the ankle.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to.
Right, but he does things nobody expects him to do a lot of times. And
he was basically throwing off of one leg.
And did okay
last week.
Last I looked, he did okay. Yeah,
so.
I'd take him.
I think it's going to be a shootout, though. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going in the range 34-30, I think.
Okay.
Honestly, it's probably going to be whoever has the ball last.
Yeah.
Going to have an opportunity to go down and score. Last year, when he went and scored with how many seconds left on the clock 2 years ago against the Bills?
It was 13, and then
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's at that point you feel like it doesn't matter how much time is left. If he gets the ball with a one score down,
never count him out.
Yeah,
I agree with you on there. I agree with that. I think I could see both of these going Brandon's way. I can see both of them going my way. I think it's going to be good football games on Sunday after we've had, for the most part, not the greatest games so far in the playoffs. There's been a couple good ones, but there have been some duds.
I think I was last week trying to watch some good games. Of course, that Philly Eagles game or the Philly Giants game was
PU.
PU.
Exactly.
Right from the start.
Exactly.
Right from the start. So.
Yeah, and some of them just were not as interesting. I think. I mean, Jacksonville, nice story when they won their game, coming back 20. You're the Chargers. You got to win that game up 27-0. It was a fun story, sports story, but it wasn't the greatest game. A lot of turnovers. Your game was physical, low scoring. If you like that kind of a game, not much went on between the 30s, but there were some plays made. But we haven't seen that, like you said, that 34-30 back and forth fireworks yet. We might see that on Sunday. And I think in the other game, the best defense, the defense that makes the most plays, will win the NFC. And then, maybe we can come back and do this again for a Super Bowl. We'll have a Super Bowl prediction
2 weeks from now.
Party. Yeah. Before we go, though, how's Carroll County sports treated you so far in your time here as the CMC?
I definitely feel, like I said, not growing up here, growing up in Salisbury. When I came to school here, there really was not a connection I felt with the city. So that part was lacking a little. But then once I started getting involved here, doing more sports, local high school stuff, you start to feel that connection. I think that kind of makes what I do a lot more rewarding because I feel like I'm doing it for something,
right.
And that's always a cool feeling. And what we're doing here is as a program here at the CMC, it's cool to see us take steps, each week, trying to take that next step up and hopefully be able to keep doing that. Yeah.
Well, Brandon, I appreciate you joining me on the podcast this week. Again, it's a kind of a bonus episode. We just wanted to get out there and introduce Brandon and also just talk about something other than high school sports for a change, which is nice. But I'll definitely be back with Michael Duffy and we'll do some more high school sports. But, man, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate you.